Welcome to Deep Sleep Stories. My name is Matt. On YouTube, we post just one new story each week, but on our podcast, you'll find several fresh episodes released throughout the week. You can listen to us on all major platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Audible, Pandora, and more, all completely ad-free. Just look us up under the same name, Deep Sleep Stories, and enjoy. Now, take a deep breath, and let's begin tonight's story.
Welcome to Deep Sleep Stories, where gentle words and soft imagery guide you toward a place of rest and calm. Take a moment now to settle into the comfort of your bed or wherever you find yourself resting, and allow your breathing to deepen and slow. You may notice your lungs filling with the cool, clean air of evening, then releasing each breath with a steady, soothing rhythm. With each exhale, feel your thoughts growing softer, your muscles loosening, and your mind drifting just a little further from the day's demands. Tonight, you'll journey to the Faroe Islands in Denmark, where dusk settles upon towering sea cliffs and quiet villages, inviting you to explore a serene landscape at the very edge of the world. Begin, if you will, by closing your eyes or softening your gaze. Notice any tightness in your forehead, around your jaw, across your shoulders, or down your legs. With each slow inhale, imagine a gentle, comforting warmth filling those spots, easing tension and ushering you into a space of peace. You might picture a lantern's glow spreading through your body, a calm golden light that grows stronger with every breath. On your next exhale, let this warmth flow out into the rest of your being so that every inch of you feels settled and relaxed. You're free to let the day's concerns fade away. Here in this cocoon of safety, nothing is asked of you except to rest and listen. Thoughts may still flicker at the edges of your awareness, but there's no need to engage them. Let them come and go like wisps of clouds floating through the night sky. Your only task is to open yourself to the gentle unfolding of a story, set in a tranquil land, far from the noise of busy roads, away from bustling crowds, a place of soft breezes, crisp air, and the slow lull of rolling seas. Let each breath draw you into that world, letting you drift closer and closer until, with the calmness of dusk, you enter a story where time moves gently as if cradled by the hush of ocean waves. And now, as you remain comfortable and still, sink into the warm embrace of this tale. You've done all you need to do. Simply let the words carry you to another realm. Feel the slight weight of your eyelids and the soft pull of restful darkness. Notice your breathing one more time. Breathing in comfort, breathing out any lingering tension. Then drift ever so gently into a quiet story that will guide you toward deep, restorative sleep. The sun had yet to fully set over the Faroe Islands, painting the edges of the sky with delicate lavender and waning peach hues. At the very edge of the western horizon, a final streak of gold clung to the clouds, a promise of light that lingered just long enough to merge seamlessly with oncoming night. In a small village nestled between rugged cliffs and the open sea, The twilight air was cool and briny, carrying with it the faint aroma of peat smoke from the chimneys and the fresh scent of salt spray drifting inland. A solitary figure walked along the winding coastal path that wove between the sloping hills and out toward the cliff's edge. Cloaked in a woolen sweater, they moved slowly, each step measured, as if trying not to disturb the tranquil scene. The grass here was lush and green, even in the dusk, and soft underfoot, tufted with small wildflowers that closed their petals gently as the air turned colder. Sheep grazed lazily on the inclines, seemingly unbothered by the presence of a human nearby, their soft bleating blending seamlessly with the hush of the wind. Far below, waves rolled in steady rhythms against the foot of the cliffs, each crest sending a delicate spray into the air. Over millennia, the water had carved out tall, dramatic formations in the ancient basalt. Towering pillars rose from the sea surface, shaped and worn by time. The figure paused at the precipice, gazing outward to watch the interplay of light and shadow upon the waves. A sense of awe and reverence infused the moment, the quiet grandeur inviting calm rather than demanding attention. Evening terns circled overhead, their calls echoing across the wide expanse of water and then drifting away on the breeze. In the distance, small clusters of houses huddled together, forming tiny hamlets along the coastline. Their grass roofs and brightly painted walls gave them the appearance of miniature dwellings from a far-off tale. Lanterns were beginning to glow in the windows, casting warm, welcoming light onto gravel walkways. The soft illumination created shimmering reflections in the wet stone streets, forming a gentle dance of color and shadow. From one such house, perched just a short stroll from the cliff path, drifted the comforting aroma of soup simmering on a stove, laced with herbs from a garden patch that flourished despite the wind and spray. In the quiet heart of that small house, a lamp burned softly on a side table. The figure from the cliff's edge soon found shelter there, gently opening the wooden door, greeted by the low crackle of a peat fireplace and a kindly hush that encouraged whispers or no words at all. A kettle puffed softly on the stove, releasing its own wisps of steam into the air. The person inside removed a scarf and gloves, settling into an armchair near the fire, letting the slow warmth sink into chilled bones. The window beside the chair framed a perfect view of the sea cliffs and the vast sky above them as twilight deepened into true night. From that vantage point, each moment felt elongated, suspended in the hush that enveloped the Faroe Islands at dusk. The hush was a living thing, as though the wind itself had softened to lull all creatures into a shared, serene repose. Shadows melted into corners, gently lit by the flicker of the fireplace. A mild creaking of wood occasionally broke the silence, timber shifting in the gentle breeze, reminding anyone present of the patient history housed within these sturdy old walls. At length, the traveler rose, drawn by the promise of a final stroll under the emerging stars. Sliding open the door once more, they stepped into the hushed outdoors. The path through the village was lit sporadically by lanterns, their glow reflecting on damp stones. Each step across the cobbled lane made a soft, rhythmic sound, and every so often, distant sheep's bleat or the murmur of waves punctuated the stillness. Thatched roofs appeared almost otherworldly in the moonlight that now trickled through the thinning clouds. A short walk led to the outskirts of the village, where the land fell away again into dramatic cliffs overlooking the sea. Here one could hear the ocean's lullaby in its entirety, the deep resonance of water meeting rock, the soulful whisper of wind weaving among the grassy ledges. The gentle surge and retreat of the tide offered a natural cadence to the stillness of the night. It was a sound that felt as ancient as time itself, a steady heartbeat in the silence. Spreading out from the cliff's edge were rolling meadows. In the lingering twilight, their surfaces shimmered slightly with dew. The grass was dotted with small, pinkish-white flowers that closed for the evening, creating a delicate tapestry that only revealed its finer details if one stood still and allowed the eyes to adjust to the gentle darkness. A handful of sheep lay curled up, woolly lumps nestled against each other for warmth. Overhead, the sky became a velvet canvas decorated with tiny pinpoints of light. The stars seemed to hang just a bit lower over the Faroes, as though the heavens wanted to be close to the sea and the mountains. In a modest harbor not far from the village, fishing boats rocked gently in the tide, their masts swaying with each shift of the current. Old ropes creaked against the docks, and an occasional seabird drifted low across the water, scanning for the last small fish of the day. Over these waters, the moon cast a calm, silvery trail, shimmering and fractured where gentle ripples disturbed the reflection. Against this dreamy backdrop, the traveler found an old wooden bench, worn smooth by decades of salt air, and sat to watch the interplay of moonlight on the ocean's surface. Even in the darkness, the presence of the high sea cliffs was unmistakable, looming but benign, like ancient guardians watching over village and sea alike. The hush in the air created a sensation of timelessness. One could imagine the cliffs had always been there, standing watch, witnessing countless sunsets and twilights. In this hush, thoughts quieted, turning reflective, almost prayerful. There was no sense of hurry or urgency. Time flowed softly, like a gentle river that caressed rather than cut its banks. Memories of the day's small interactions flickered. A friendly wave from a villager passing by, the cheerful bark of a dog that briefly followed along a path, the warmth of a cup of tea shared in the afternoon, while gazing out at the roiling sea beyond the glass. Each memory brought with it a tenderness, reminding the traveler how easily a sense of belonging could take root in a land that welcomed tranquility. From their seat, the traveler eventually noticed the luminous swirl of the Milky Way, that soft band of light, bridging one horizon to the next. Far from the glare of city lights, the heavens revealed themselves in dazzling glory. The cool breath of night brushed against the traveler's cheeks, and for a long time they simply remained there, content to behold the vastness above and the tranquil waters below. It was in that state, suspended between sea and sky, land and night, that they felt a gentle drowsiness begin to settle in their limbs. It began with a pleasant heaviness behind the eyes, a signal that soon it would be time to retreat indoors to the warm bed that waited. Eventually the traveler rose with unhurried grace. The village path welcomed them back, the halo of lantern light offering a guiding glow on the stones. A gentle hush accompanied each footstep. In these parts, nighttime did not mean restlessness or bustling activity. It was a time of true repose, of letting the land and all its inhabitants slip into a gentle rhythm of restoration. Reaching the door of the small, cozy house, the traveler slipped inside, inhaling the lingering aroma of the fire which had now settled into glowing embers. The traveler prepared quietly for sleep, footsteps muffled on the old wooden floor. Moments later, they sank onto a soft bed covered with warm blankets that smelled faintly of lavender and fresh linen. Outside the window, the moon cast faint shapes on the floor, as if to say that even in sleep, the night kept gentle watch. As the hours progressed, the seas continued their chorus, lapping steadily against the base of the cliffs. Around the far side of the island, small waterfalls tumbled from high plateaus, feeding into hidden lakes or flowing directly to the ocean, each rivulet adding a soft murmur to the night's peaceful symphony. The old sloping roofs of the village houses seemed to blend into the black silhouettes of the hills, forming a quiet silhouette beneath the starlit sky. Occasionally, a breeze would stir through the grass, carrying the slightest hint of morning dew. But for now, the night was content to linger, to cradle all those who slumbered. When dawn finally approached, it did so slowly, gently turning the horizon from charcoal to the faintest pewter gray. A hush still reigned, yet it was a hush filled with promise. As the traveler emerged from sleep, they stirred to find the inside of the little house bathed in soft, early light. The hearth was still warm, embers glowing faintly. Stretching, they rose to peer out of the window. The sea was calm, like liquid silver, and the sky wore a pale, opalescent sheen. There was no rush to begin the day. Curiosity beckoned. Venturing outside once more, the traveler walked through the village, where the cobblestones were still wet with dew, or the remnants of a passing light drizzle. A narrow footpath led toward the edge of a meadow overlooking the sea, dotted with grazing sheep. There, a small wooden dock jutted out into the water, barely large enough for a handful of small boats. One of the islanders, an older gentleman with a warm smile, stood by the dock in thick boots and a fisherman's cap. Quietly, he greeted the traveler, gesturing with an invitation to accompany him on the short boat ride across the bay. The traveler accepted, stepping carefully into the modest skiff. With a patient push from the dock, the boat drifted out over the calm, early morning waters. The aroma of brine grew richer, and the gentle slap of water against the hull formed a soothing meter. Although the day's first light was still muted, each passing moment revealed more of the island's contours, the gentle slopes rising to meet steep cliffs, crowned by rolling fog that caressed the peaks. The boat glided smoothly and gulls soared overhead, their voices echoing across the water, yet never breaking the serenity. Each breath carried the faint tang of salt and seaweed, coupled with the coolness of the morning air. In due time, the skiff reached another shoreline, an inlet formed by dramatic basalt columns, where a narrow beach of black sand curved gracefully. The older man anchored the boat, then helped the traveler step ashore. Ahead stretched a network of rock paths that led to a cliffside vantage point. Up there, the traveler marveled at the dark, chiseled formations stacked like giant steps, ascending toward the sky, each one carved by the ceaseless pulse of wind and water. Looking outward, they saw neighboring islands appearing like emerald peaks amidst the vast expanse of ocean. From this vantage, it was easy to believe one was standing on the threshold between worlds, where seabirds soared low over the waves, and the sky hung intimately close to the earth. The day advanced at a leisurely pace. Clouds moved overhead, casting roaming shadows that crossed gently over valleys, meadows, and the dramatic rock faces. Occasionally, the sun would pierce through, illuminating the crisp green of the island's grass, and making the sea shimmer like polished stone. The traveler wandered small trails lined with delicate wildflowers, their petals glistening with droplets of moisture. A sense of wonder accompanied each new glimpse of hidden coves and narrow inlets. More than once, a pair of puffins appeared on a nearby ledge, their bright beaks adding a splash of color to the rugged coastline before they vanished into their burrows or took flight over the water. Every so often the traveler paused to listen. The wind carried faint echoes of bleating sheep, the murmur of distant waterfalls, and the distant clang of a bell from a grazing animal. At one turn, an ancient church spire peeked over the hillside, its modest wooden frame blending harmoniously with the landscape. Nearby, small headstones leaned in the island's moist ground, etched with names almost worn away by the elements. The traveler lingered there for a while, imagining the generations who called these islands home, each one lulled by the same winds and cradled by the same seas. As daylight began to wane, golden hour returned, bathing the cliffs and the village in a soft amber glow. The traveler made their way back across the water with the fishermen, the small boat meandering through the channels, gently rocking as the tide began to rise. The return journey was tranquil, punctuated by the occasional splash of a seal or a curious seabird dipping into the waters. Once on land, the traveler retraced the cobbled lane to the inviting warmth of the little house with its peat fire. The pot on the stove simmered again, perfuming the air with the scent of root vegetables and herbs. Night approached once more, and with it came that profound hush that had characterized the previous dusk. Once fed and warmed, the traveler took a final stroll down to the water's edge. Now the sea was darker, reflecting the purple and navy hues of the sky, while the moon cast pale ribbons of light across the surface. Small lights twinkled from the village windows, each one a beacon of warmth and humanity in the enveloping darkness. A gentle hush enveloped everything. Even the gulls seemed to have quieted for the night. The traveler found a spot atop a smooth rock near the shoreline to watch the moonlight, accompanied by the faint, comforting rumble of waves. Eventually it was time to head back, lulled by the repetitive music of water on stones. Stepping quietly into the house, the traveler eased the door shut against the cool night air. The fire had been tended, and it glowed with a soft orange warmth. The traveler snuggled into a cozy chair, allowing thoughts and impressions of the day's gentle explorations to drift through the mind like slow-moving clouds. Images of dramatic sea cliffs and quiet villages glowed softly, intermingling with the memory of the boat ride, the black sand beach, and the basalt columns rising toward a pale sky. In time, the traveler rose to retire for the night, taking a moment to gaze out of the window, where the moon, now higher in the sky, illuminated patches of low-lying fog that pooled in the valleys. The air smelled of evening dew and the faintest trace of smoke. The traveler crawled into bed and pulled the blankets close. A serene heaviness settled over their limbs, carrying them closer and closer to the threshold of dreams. The night outside was calm, and inside, the only sound was the very gentle crackle of the remaining fire. As those quiet moments unwound, the Faroe Islands themselves seemed to join in repose, lulled by the hush of winds and waves. The ancient cliffs, timeless guardians of the sea, stood steadfast against the starlight. One by one, lights in the village winked out, leaving only the flicker of a street lantern or two and the soft glow that spilled from a single window. In that hush, the soul found an easeful resting place, mind and body surrendering to sleep's tender embrace. Hours slipped by without notice, each one marked only by a slight shift in the wind or a change in the distant roar of the tides. Somewhere out on the water, a lone seabird floated, drifting in and out of slumber. On the rocky slopes, the sheep dozed, their warm fleece blanketed by moonlight. The traveler sank deeper beneath the covers, breathing softly in harmony with the gentle rhythm of the surf. Outside, a few stars gleamed courageously through shifting banks of clouds, and the moon traveled its slow arch across the sky. In the stillness, dreams came with the mildness of starlight. They carried hints of the day's observations, the basalt cliffs, the rolling meadows, the hushed village lanes. Fields turned dreamlike with grass that swayed and shimmered. Seas carried whispered lullabies, while glimmering waves reflected an aurora-like glow. Far overhead, gulls soared silently, morphing into constellations that blinked in and out of view. Distant waterfalls sang a gentle chorus, and the traveler felt a comforting embrace from the very heart of the islands. By the time the traveler stirred once more, dawn had come again, bringing with it soft light and a cool, cleansing breeze. Yet even morning arrived in hushed tones, allowing for a gentle transition from slumber to wakefulness. The sea was quiet and subdued in the early hour, as if it too had spent the night in the cradle of deep rest. Rising from bed, the traveler felt a sense of profound tranquility, an awareness of having been in a place where nature's rhythms guided every moment. For the next days and nights, this gentle cadence continued. Some afternoons were spent exploring hidden footpaths that climbed the inland hills, revealing panoramic views of steep valleys and winding fjords. Other times, the traveler found simple pleasures in the village itself, sipping warm tea with neighbors, exchanging soft-spoken words, or simply leaning against an old fence while watching the changing color of the sky. Rainy spells came too, passing in delicate drizzles that left droplets glistening on every blade of grass, on every boat hull, and on every window pane. But always the hush remained, the calm presence of the islands settling gently over everything. Nightfall was eagerly awaited each evening, for it brought a return to that mystical half-light where the ocean breathed in deep lullabies and the cliffs stood nobly under the watch of moon and stars. Sometimes the traveler would light a small lantern and walk a short stretch of the cliffs, letting that single flame become a companion under the wide sky. Clouds might drift low, cloaking mountaintops and scattering faint mists, but the hush was never broken. It filled every valley, every crevice in the rock, every quiet moment between heartbeats. As the traveler breathed it in, they felt more and more at one with the timeless spirit of this place. On the final night, the traveler lingered at the edge of the village, seated on an old stone wall near a grazing field. The sea below glistened under a wide tapestry of stars, and a gentle breeze carried the scent of peat, grass, and salt. The wind combed through the traveler's hair as though in a final benediction. They realized how the Faroe Islands had offered not a dramatic adventure filled with fanfare, but a calm, patient welcoming, an invitation to slow down and commune with the steady pulse of nature. The hush that existed there was a precious gift, a living antidote to restless days. Eventually, the traveler returned to the small home that had offered shelter, stepping inside the comforting warmth and letting the quiet hush of the night enfold them. Outside, the water and wind continued their soft conversation, as they had done for millennia. The traveler took one last glance through the window. In the dark, one could only just make out the shapes of distant cliffs, like shadowy sentinels, the faint lights in the village had mostly gone out, save for a few flickers here and there. Under the cozy blankets of a small but welcoming bed, the traveler breathed slowly, contented. Moments passed, and with them came a deep, fulfilling sense of rest, the hush of the Faroe Islands, and the crackling embers of the hearth, the hush of coastal breezes and the echoes of the tides formed a lullaby that transcended words. Sleep followed soft and sure, ushered in by a world that knew how to embrace each visitor with gentle care. Now, dear one, you too can let your mind drift like a gentle boat upon quiet seas. The hush of the Faroe Islands, the flicker of a lantern in a small cottage window, and the softest breeze of nightfall are all with you now, even though you lie far away in your own bed. Allow your breath to remain gentle and smooth, guiding your body into a deeper stillness. Each inhale is a tender invitation to calmness, and each exhale releases the tightness of the day. Imagine your limbs growing heavier, carried softly into rest. Feel how your eyes grow warm and drowsy, eyelids soft with sleep. There is no need for any more thought or exploration. You have seen the distant cliffs, breathed in the cool salt air, and found refuge in a realm of whispering winds and starlit skies. Now let all those images dissolve into a comforting darkness where only the gentle memory of a far-off lullaby remains. Let your head sink deeper into the pillow, your breath flowing effortlessly. Let your shoulders drop, releasing any lingering tension. Your arms feel relaxed and calm. Your legs sink into the bed, heavy and at peace. Sense the warmth of rest surrounding you, wrapping you in a cocoon of safety and ease. This is your time to surrender to sleep's gentle pull, letting it cradle you the way quiet waves lap against a friendly shore. As you drift, imagine the wind blowing softly across the Faroes cliffs, the sea offering a rhythmic hush, and the fields hushed under a dome of stars. It's all here in the quiet corners of your mind, ready to lull you into sweet slumber. There's nothing more to do, nothing more to seek. This moment, this warm tranquility, holds all you need. Good night, dear traveler. May your dreams be as gentle as moonlight on still water, and your rest as deep as the ancient seas. Sleep well.